An API stands for Application Programming Interface. It is a set of rules, program, or code that allows software applications communicate with each other. A sample API we will be exploring in this video is the Trivia API. Now, the Trivia own a database that contains a pool of quiz questions. Now, these quiz questions also have answer options. And all this data are stored somewhere in a database. And this database is owned by Trivia. Now, the database is a software. Now, we are going to be building our own software. And we want our software to communicate with the Trivia's database. Remember, our software is a game. It's going to be a quiz game. So we need quiz questions. So we want to interact with Trivia's database. Unfortunately, we do not own that database. But fortunately for us, Trivia has developed an API. So what are we going to be doing? Our software, our game, or our program, or our application is going to interact with the Trivia's API. But in order for us to make this work, we need to understand how the Trivia's API is set up. For us to get that understanding, we need to explore the API documentation. Now on your browsers, head over to d-trivia-api.com. And when you get to this website, all you have to do is hit the button that says read the documentation. When the documentation gets opened, what we are interested in is questions. So click on questions by your left hand side, and you should see an operation that says get a random set of questions. So we want to get to this operation. Basically, what this operation does is that it retrieves a random set of questions from the Trivia database. Now, every operation would be called with an endpoint. On your right hand side, you should see get/questions. And if you hit the drop down here, you would see the endpoint that we can use to call the operation get random set of questions. Good. I also need you to take note of the word get. This means that this operation is a get method. Basically, it's going to return some set of data or some form of data. In the case of this particular operation, the endpoint, when called, returns a JSON text. If you look below on your right hand side, you should see this bunch of stuff that contains square brackets and a curly brace with some sets of stuff like category and ID tags, blah, blah, blah. Yes, this is what we call a JSON text. Just in case you're new to JSON and you don't know what it is, then you need to check the description. You need to check the description of this video. You should see a link that will take you to an entirely new video where I would explain what a JSON text looks like. Good. Without wasting too much time, let's copy the endpoint and go test this endpoint. I need to let you know that in order to test an API, there are several tools that you can use. You can use Postman. Postman is one of the popular tools. Just in case you might want to see where I use Postman to test this endpoint, then you need to check the link in the description of this video, as I have dropped another link to another video that teaches you about Postman. For now, we're going to be using our browsers to test this endpoint. So I'm going to put the endpoint in the browser URL here and I run. Okay, now I got my response. I have this functionality on my browser called PrettyPrint. It's going to make this JSON text human readable. Now this is a JSON text, do not forget. So I'm going to enable PrettyPrint. Just in case you don't have PrettyPrint as a functionality in your browser, you can also do this. You can copy your JSON text You can head over to this site. The link to this website is in the description of this video, jasonformatter.org/jason-pretty-print. And you can paste your JSON text on the right hand side, and on the left hand side, it's going to give you a pretty view. I can expand on this with the full screen, and we are good. Okay, since I already have Pretty Print installed in my browser, I would be doing my explanation here. Now the JSON text consists of quiz object, and this is marked by the curly braces. So this is a quiz object. Every curly braced item is an object. This is a quiz object. This is another quiz object. And this is a third quiz object. If you do the count down to the end of the JSON text, we have a total of about 10 quiz objects. Now, a single quiz object would contain properties. It contains a question property, which holds the actual question. It contains a correct answer property, which holds the value of the correct answer, as well as an incorrect answer property, which holds values of incorrect answers. It's interesting to see that we can combine incorrect answers with correct answer to form quiz answer options. Again, we have difficulty, which holds the value of easy, hard, or medium, telling us the difficulty level of this particular quiz object. The same applies to every other quiz object in this JSON text. Okay, now we know the endpoint returns for us an array of quiz objects. It will make more sense if we have a bit of control. Right now, we call the endpoint, it gives us 10 random set of quiz objects. It would make more sense if we can say, give us just 3 quiz objects of difficulty easy, or give us just 5 quiz objects with category science or category maths or category science and difficulty medium, just a bit of control. So without wasting much time, let's see how we can do that. Now, if you head back to the documentation, the get random set of questions operation provides us with some query parameters. For example, the limit query parameter can be used to control the number of quiz questions objects returned by the endpoint. Categories, on the other hand, can be used to set the categories of quiz questions object returned. And difficulties can be used to set the difficulty level of the quiz questions objects returned. Without wasting too much time, let's see this. Now back to my testing browser. I could do this in my URL. I could say, I attach the question mark with the word limit, and I say equals to 3, and I hit enter, and automatically it gives me a JSON response with 3 quiz questions objects. You can see 2 and 3. Similarly, if I change the value of this to 1 and I hit enter, I just get a JSON text response with 1 quiz question object. Again, I can copy the query parameters for category, and back to my browser, my test browser, I can say and categories is equals to science. Before I hit the enter button, if you take a look at, hold on, I'm going to cut this out first. If you take a look at the category here for the 1 quiz question object, you see it is society and culture. Now I'm going to apply this query parameter. I'm going to say, give me 1 question, and categories should be science. I hit enter, and you can see it is a quiz question object with a category of science. The same goes for difficulties. I copy the query parameter difficulties, and before I apply this, you can see difficulty here is medium. But if I do this, if I say and difficulties equals easy, it's going to give me 1 quiz question object with category science and difficulty easy. I'm going to hit enter, and you can see this, that I have one quiz question object with category science and difficulty is easy, and it works good. I can also change the limits here to, let's do this to 3, and I hit enter, and you can see I have 3 quiz question objects, 1, 2, 3, with the selected category and difficulty. So every one of these quiz questions objects are going to be of the category science and difficulty easy. Now we know that this works. Let's head back to the documentation. Before you jump over to the documentation again, I want you to store this endpoint here. So I'm going to store this endpoint in my notepad so I can always refer back to it. Now, back again to the documentation. If you go over to introduction, you would see that category has several values, and we will need this list of values because our application would need to be aware of this. So you need to copy this and go put this on the notepad. So I'm going to have this in my notepad. And back again to the introduction section of the documentation, you would see that difficulties can either be easy, medium, or hard. I also want to have this on my notepad too. So I'm going to copy this. And I want to have this in my notepad. Okay, that's all we got to do for now. And we are good.